Do you remember the smell of wet wool? Do you remember the feeling of frozen toes and a runny nose? Imagine you are standing at the top of the biggest hill in your neighborhood. The ground is covered in white, hard-packed snow. In your hands, you are holding a weapon. It is made of ash wood and red-painted steel. You take a deep breath, run 3 steps, and jump chest first onto the wood. Suddenly, the world blurs. The wind screams in your ears. You are flying, and for those few seconds, you are the fastest pilot on Earth. Hello, friends. Shake the snow off your boots and come inside where it is warm. I am Pop Pop, and welcome to Storytime Brain Prime. Today, we are putting away the history books and opening the old garage. We are going to talk about a simple object that defined childhood for a century. It was dangerous, it was fast, and it was beautiful. Today, we are talking about the legend of the flexible flyer sled. To understand why this sled was so special, we have to go back to a time before plastic existed. If you wanted to slide down a hill in the 1880s, you had to be creative. Kids used old wooden boards, metal trays, or even shovels. It was fun, but it was clumsy. You could not control where you were going. You just pointed downhill and prayed you did not hit a tree. Enter a man named Samuel Leeds Allen. He was not a toy maker. In fact, he was a serious businessman from Philadelphia who owned a farm equipment factory. He made seed drills, potato diggers, and cultivators. His company, S.L. Allen and Cars, was very successful. But Samuel had a problem. Farming is seasonal. Farmers buy tools in the spring and summer, but in the winter? His factory was silent. His machine stopped running. He had to lay off his workers every winter, and he hated doing that. He wanted to find a product that he could make during the slow winter months to keep his men employed. Samuel was a Quaker, a religious man, but he was also a big kid at heart. He loved sledding. He famously tested his prototypes at the Westtown School in Pennsylvania. But he was frustrated by the sleds of his time. They were called toboggans or cutters. They were fast, but they were stupid. To turn them, you had to drag your foot in the snow. If you dragged your left foot, you turned left. But dragging your foot slowed you down. Samuel wanted speed. He wanted control. He wanted to steer without stopping. He went to his factory and started bending steel. He looked at the runners, the metal blades that touched the snow. He realized that if he could make the front part of the runners flexible, he could bend them to the left or right. He attached a wooden crossbar to the front. When you pulled the bar, the steel runners physically bent. It was a revolution. He called it the flexible flyer. He patented it in 1889. But here's the funny part. At first, nobody wanted to buy it. Toy stores said it was too weird. Hardware stores said they only sold tools. Samuel was stubborn. He started selling them to the kids directly, finding hills where they played. Once the kids saw that you could steer around a rock without slowing down, they went crazy. By 1915, Samuel was selling 2,000 sleds a day. The farm equipment factory had accidentally become the Santa Claus factory. Now, let's look at the sled itself. If you grew up in America between 1920 and 1990, you probably had one. It was a masterpiece of engineering. It was built like a tank. The wood was selected birch or ash, the same wood used for baseball bats. It was strong. The runners were red carbon steel, and right in the center, there was the logo, a red eagle. That eagle promised you one thing: speed. Riding a flexible flyer was an art form. There were 2 ways to do it. First, there was the safe way. You sat on your bottom, feet forward, holding the steering bar with your hands. This was for beginners. This was for the slow lane. But if you were brave, or maybe a little crazy, you did the belly flop. This was the professional move. You stood at the top of the hill. You held the sled against your chest. You ran as fast as you could, and then, boom! You slammed your body down onto the wooden slats face first. Your face was only inches from the ice. The snow sprayed into your eyes. You steered with your hands, pulling the bar left and right. We did not have helmets back then. We did not have safety pads. If you crashed hard. And oh, we crashed often. We hit fences. We hit snowbanks. Sometimes we hit each other. But we always got up, wiped the blood off our lip, and started the long walk back up the hill. That is an important verb for our English learners, to drag. The ride down took 30 seconds, but then you had to drag the sled back up. It was heavy. The hill was steep. You were sweating inside your winter coat. But you did it again and again until the sun went down and your mother called you for dinner. There was a ritual to owning a flexible flyer. You had to take care of it. If the steel runners got rusty, you were slow. So we became amateur mechanics. We would take steel wool and scrub the rust off until the metal shined like silver. Then we did the secret trick. We went into the kitchen and stole a candle or a block of paraffin wax from our mothers. We rubbed that wax onto the metal runners. It made the sled slippery. It reduced the friction. On a waxed sled, you felt like you broke the sound barrier. It is interesting to think about how dangerous these things were. The steering bar had sharp edges. The rear of the runners stuck out like knives. In the 1970s, safety regulations changed. They added plastic guards and blunt ends. But the original models? They were wild. They taught us a lesson about physics and consequences. If you go too fast and you don't steer, you get hurt. It was a simple lesson, but a good one. In the 1960s and 70s, plastic arrived. The flying saucer, a round plastic dish, became popular. It was cheap, it was light, but it was impossible to steer. You just spun in circles until you hit a tree. Then there were the inflatable tubes. They were comfortable, like sitting on a sofa, but they had no soul. The flexible flyer was different. It had a soul. It was made of trees and iron. It aged with you. You could see the scratches in the wood from that time you hit the mailbox in 1958. You could see the bent metal from the big ice storm of 1964. It was passed down from older brothers to younger sisters. It was an heirloom. Today, you can still buy them, but it is rare to see kids on them. Most children today stay inside with their iPads when it snows, or they use cheap plastic sleds that break after one season. The heavy wooden sleds are now mostly found in antique shops or hanging on the walls of Cracker Barrel restaurants as decorations. They are artifacts of a time when play was physical, cold, and a little bit risky. But if you close your eyes, I bet you can still feel it. You can feel the vibration of the wood against your chest. You can hear the hiss of the runners cutting through the ice. You can feel the panic when you realize you are going too fast to stop. That brings us to the bottom of the hill. We have reached the end of our ride today. Friends, winter is a great time to remember that sometimes you just have to jump on the sled and enjoy the ride, even if you don't know exactly where you are going. If this story brought back a warm memory of a cold day, please smash that subscribe button like a snowball and share this video with your childhood friends. Stay warm, keep your mittens dry, and I will see you at the top of the next hill. Bye-bye.